What's new for 2020? We have more car parts for Project Lynn. I do have them underneath my bed. And I'm really excited to show you guys next year. You're gonna have to wait. Trust me guys, you guys are gonna freaking love this. I love this. I love this. I love this. Alrighty. Where do I start? Alright guys, we're doing a little update video on Project Lynn. Now you would have seen at the beginning of this video, it was actually the day before Christmas, and I said that we had big plans for Lynn in 2020. Now obviously by the title of this video, you know that I have sold my single setup. So let's go from the beginning. I'll tell you the story from the beginning of what happened. A year and a half ago, I went to Unique Automotive to see Uncle and Courtney. It was just a regular service and Uncle's just checking the car like he usually does.
I think that we have an issue.
What do you mean?
Turbos.
What about them?
They're showing signs that they're going to be they're on their way out.
What kind of signs?
They're smoky.
And he noticed that there's a bit of a leak near the turbo at the back. So he said that your turbo seals are probably on their way out. So from then on it was just a question mark of like, when are they going to blow. After that we had the New South Wales entrance cruise with the New South Wales Super Club, and Uncle was behind me and he noticed that there's a bit of smoke coming from the exhaust. So I said to him like, what do we do? He goes, just keep driving them. And like now it's been what, a year and a half and they're still on the turbo. Knock on wood, they haven't blown. I started thinking about which way to go. Now we had two options, or sorry, we had three options. We could either just get stock rebuilt turbos, or the other option was we could go with twin high flow setups. And then obviously the third option would be a single turbo setup. I started doing some homework and met a guy named Garrett who had a high flow twin turbo Supra Auto. I had a bit of a chat and he said, I'm going to take the car to the drags. He actually ran a 9-second pass. Wow man, this is absolutely insane. You know, for something that's just a high flow setup running 500 horsepower. Now he was running, you know, slicks and an auto, hence for him to get that 9-second pass. But I've seen that in Australia there's a lot of people out there that are running high flow setups instead of like the Americans that just go straight to a single setup. So that was a thing that I was considering, as well as going a high flow setup, just purely for the simple fact that the car still looks stock, and in Australia, you know, you can get dicked by the cops for having modifications on your car, and you know, having a massive single setup would have attracted the cops a lot. Found a company called Munro up in Queensland. He does absolutely amazing work, but his waiting list is 2 years because he works by himself and he wants the quality to be, you know, the best. So I said, nah, I can't do that. That's just going to be way too long. Started looking towards a single. That was another thing that I had to think as well, was which way do we go? Do we go with big power, you know, or do we want to go for like a smaller size responsive setup? I'm sure a lot of you have watched the Amuse Supra. That's filmed by Best Motoring, that's running a GT30, and you know, it's making crazy response and torque, and I think that was the way that we wanted to go when I spoke to Uncle. He said, you know, if you want to run something like that, maybe run like a GT3540, and he said don't go a GTX series because you know, they start making massive power when you start running like higher boost and stuff like that. But I couldn't find the GT series of that spec at the time. Make Me Go Fast had their end of financial year sale back in June, and they had a special on for a GTX3076R. So I spoke to them and they said, yeah, we can do a deal. I bought a Powerhouse Racing log manifold and a GFB external wastegate. Bought this single setup, spoke to Peyton said, yeah, that's good. We were going to run 800cc injectors, still run the Power FC on 98. Power goals were going to be around 300, 320 kilowatt, purely for the fact that we still wanted to keep the stock clutch. And as some of you may know on my Instagram, during that time I was actually preparing for a wedding, so we thought, oh, you know, it'd be a good idea if we get it ready before the wedding. But as things came, I was traveling and Uncle still was flat out, as he always is. We spoke and I said, like, do you reckon we're going to be in a rush to get it done? He goes, yeah. He goes, look, he goes, just leave it as the way it is, and then after the wedding we'll do the single setup, just to know that, you know, it's 100% reliable. Because even though he will do the single setup, he wants to double check that everything runs properly. So I said, alright, we'll just keep it twins anyway, because I did use Lynn for my wedding day. So that went past. I think a couple of months later, actually, was it a couple of months later? No, I was still trying to get more parts that I needed for the single setup, because it's not just your turbo and your piping. You still had to get water lines, oil lines as well, and the T51R mod came out as well, so I was like, oh man, I'll get that installed as well. So months just went by and I was still concentrating on doing, you know, YouTube videos and stuff like that. COVID has affected, I'd say, the human car sounds side of things, because obviously I cannot travel overseas to do commercials or car shows, and obviously couldn't go to car shows here, which means that I wasn't getting any income in, so then we could start doing mods onto Project Lynn. Now I held on to the turbo for a while, and obviously just with maintenance and keeping costs of the car running and just normal day-to-day living and all that other stuff, you know, I had money saved up to do the single setup. Because yes, I bought all the parts, but you still have to account like the labor and all that other stuff. So it got to a point where I had this money saved in my bank account, and I'm like, crap, you know, we're not getting any gigs, we're not doing anything at the moment, we're not getting any income. And I sat down and I called Peyton and I said, Uncle, like, what do we do? I said, you know, this is how much I've got, and you know, do we go down the single route? You know, keep in mind we still have to keep money for maintenance, for fuel, for insurance that I got to pay yearly. You know, and if anything happens, you know, on the car, that I've got money there to fix it. You know, the Garrett V160 is almost climbing up to 8 to 10 grand. I've got the BO3B diff. You know, good luck trying to find one. They're about like 3,500. So if any of those components blew, there's my money gone straight out for the single setup. So I spoke to him about it, and he goes, you know what, Uncle, he goes, if that's the case, just get rid of the single setup. The stock turbo is rebuilt with some steel wheels, and we'll chuck it on E85 ethanol. So I was like, you know what, that's actually not too bad. You know, a lot of YouTubers out there are running the typical single turbo setup with their Supras, and I thought this might take us to another direction with the YouTube channel and see what these, you know, stock twins can do, you know, with some E85 and a bit more boost in them, because we all know that the JDM turbos, the ceramic ones, don't like a lot of boost. So that's another thing that came up, was I was when we spoke with Peyton about doing this whole twin turbo setup in E85, I was living up in Sydney, and in Sydney there's a lot of Bowsers, or a few Bowsers that run United E85 ethanol, so you can just go straight to your petrol station and pick up E85. But then a couple of months later, we've actually moved down south from Sydney, and we're down at Illawarra at the moment, and there is no United servos down here, or no E85 Bowsers at all. The closest one to me would probably on each other end, which one side's Minto and the other side is Nara, and to fill up to get United 85 each way is going to be like half an hour, 40 minutes, and I think, even though this isn't my daily car, I think that's a bit silly to be taking the risk on running E85 just to fill up air defib at one of those Bowsers. Now, I know a few of you will be like, well, why don't you just run flex fuel? Well, I can't, because at the moment I'm running a Apexy Power FC. So if I was to run flex fuel, I'll have to get another ECU, which again is going to cost money. You know, going a Howtech, Motec, a Link, AEM, like, you know, that's just buying the ECU is going to cost a couple of grand. Then getting the, you know, labour to install the wiring, and then getting Uncle to tune it, you know, that's going to cost to get that done as well. So, like, say, it's all adding up. You know, anything you spend on cars is going to cost you. It's not just simply buying the part. You got to, you know, work out how much it's going to cost for labour and all the other stuff to it. So I had a single setup ready to go. We're going to do the whole T51R setup, and you know, the way that Supras are going at the moment, the prices are just going up. You know, a lot of JDM cars are just going up in price, and with that means that parts are starting to get more expensive. So I had to look at it, you know, it's either I go the single setup way and then have no money left, you know, for insurance and fuel or maintenance. So, or I could go the other way and we just go for a rebuilt stock setup, knowing that I've still got money to you know, turn the key, go for a drive, come back home and have still money for, you know, insurance and everything else to keep this car running. So I was trying to look at the pros and cons, and the way that, you know, the supermarket's going and the age of these cars, like, we're almost at the stage where we can actually get classic rego for these things. So I think this car is pretty much almost at the time where I'm thinking it's just going to be retired, which means no more, you know, track days and maybe not even skid pan anymore. It's practically going to be a car that will sit in the garage and I'll take out every now and then, give it a wash and go for a cruise. So I think this is going to be now just a cruising car, because they are getting at that stage where parts are just too expensive. You know, even if I do break this gearbox, I probably wouldn't even go a V160. I'd have to go with like a Tremec 6-speed or a CD009 from a 350Z gearbox. But then, you know, do I really want to go that route? Because I've got a RZ 6-speed which has on the plate, you know, with a V160 and a B03B diff. So I wasn't sure if I was going to upload this video or talk about it, but it seems like I've held you guys off for a while about what's going on with Lynn, because I did say we're going to do some performance upgrades. Well, there you have it, guys. I just wanted to do this video to let you know what's going on with the car. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you're new to the channel, sorry, if you want to go and have a look, I've got a whole playlist of when we first bought Lynn and the progress of it. Hit that subscribe button and a notification bell, and we'll see you next time. And this is going to be in the bloopers right now. What's going on, Chris? Mate. What are you on, mate?
I just finished work, mate.
Yeah?
Yeah, I thought I'd sneak in, but
do you want to say hi to YouTube?
There you go, guys. Welcome to my channel.
How many blokes did you do today?
Oh, mate.
Blokes on blokes,
dogs on dogs.
Catch any flatties?
Oh, a couple of flatties, mate. Get the doggy up there.
Boys, merch.